Sorry. All right. Hello, everyone, and happy Black History Month. My name is Davonne Reaves, the CEO and founder of Vester, which is a crowdfunding platform for commercial real estate, including hotels. And I'm so excited to be with you all for our monthly webinar series. The goal is to have it every month on the 11th or around the 11th. And so our monthly webinar series, of course, is just to bring you education, talk to you about investor and crowdfunding. But this month we have a special presentation because it's Black History Month. So, a little fact about Vester. Vester, we are one of the few and only Black-owned crowdfunding portals. We are a member of FINRA, which stands for the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, and we are definitely the one and only crowdfunding portal, Black-owned crowdfunding portal to include hotels. That's a fact. I know. I checked the list, right? And when I was going through the application process, nobody ever done this. I know I'm the first. And so we are definitely in the moment making history. But I also have some other hoteliers in the room who are they're using our portal now. Travis and his lovely wife Mikey, congratulations! They just finished their second raise, which I'm sure he'll talk about in a few. And then we have Avery Washington, who is also one of our panelists tonight, and he is developing him and his team, they're developing a Fairfield Inn and Suites in Richlands, North Carolina, which is also on the portal. So before we get started, some housekeeping notes. Yes, this will be recorded. Yes, you will receive the replay. Yes. So we got that out of the way. We definitely want to make it active. We're talking about, tonight we're going to talk about redlining and just how the history of redlining and where we are today, because we have definitely moved as a culture, as a community, just probably within the past, 20 to 50 years, from some of our parents being born, just a shift in real estate and what we're doing. So before I get into the nitty gritty, I'm going to start in alphabetical order because both of your last name starts with the W. So I'm going to start with Avery. Please introduce yourself. Let everybody know who you are.
Hello, everyone. I'm Avery Washington, originally from Connecticut. Spent 12 years in the Marines, a former Marine Raider turned real estate developer out of Eastern North Carolina.
Avery, which part of Connecticut?
Bloomfield.
Oh, okay. I grew up in Hartford. That's
Oh, man, that is insane.
yeah. I mean, I know I liked you when I met you, so
Yeah,
there's that.
good people.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm Travis West. Been working in real estate for almost a decade now. Well, I worked on development teams in private equity companies, and as Davonne just mentioned, my wife and I just fully funded a deal on the Vesta platform. So thank you for everyone who's invested and joined tonight. See a couple of names. And yeah, we started construction on our project this past Thursday. So that's my experience. Davonne, you're on mute.
There we go. All right, I'm back. There we go. Now, Avery, you gave yourself a shout out, Travis, but Avery didn't. You're also on the platform, right? So we're gonna talk about.
Yes, this is true.
I'm the same way, so I can't talk about that, right? But before we really get into it's more of a conversation, right? So I definitely will encourage folks to jump in and answer any questions that you all, might have. But how did both of you all get into commercial real estate? Because like less than 1%, probably less than 1 or 2% of the commercial real estate developers and owners and landowners are Black. So, Travis, you want to go first and how you got into the commercial real estate side of this industry?
Yeah, honestly, it started with motivation from watching my family start and fail in investing in real estate. I was a
Mhm.
kid when it was going on, but we were on our second family home. We first were gentrified out of New York and then out of the near New York, New Jersey area. And I was like, man, why did this happen? That kind of sucked. And so, it played out over like I want to say 10-year period. So my grandma bought the first property when I was 10 years old. And then the next one got purchased when I was like 17. And they ended up losing that one like when I was like 24. Um, and honestly, it came down to just a lot of curiosity and of trying to figure that out on why it happened to us, that I just started self-researching. Um, and I I got so interested in the field that I convinced these guys to let me work for their small little private equity company. And I was doing leasing and operations. And that was a great experience. And then I went to work at an affordable housing company, which was an even more robust experience. And because I loved it so much, I was like, hey, let me get my master's in real estate at the same time. So I worked full time while doing that. And just absorbing all that information and knowing my family's personal story, I was pretty determined to make sure, we were building wealth in this country and now using the newfound knowledge that I had with real estate to do so. Um, and obviously Mikey's down and she's her own visionary in her own sense. So, when the two of us got together, it was kind of like a clear thing for us to do with our money. So we just while I was working full time for those other companies, I was also investing with Mikey on the side. So the journey kind of just went from there, just slowly getting knowledge and experience, and just keeping it going.
Oh, Avery, what about yourself?
So the first investment I made was in buying a home. For some reason, I just had it in my mind that if I got a duplex or a residential multifamily property, all the tenants would pay my mortgage and I would just live mortgage free.
Mhm.
And the market was much softer at the time. So I took my sweet time looking at 2 through 4 unit properties. I closed on a duplex, and the next month the tenant gave notice, and it was vacant probably for another 6 months. So in that process, though, I learned about the importance of good property management. I started to develop a network in the area as I interviewed different ones and learn more about market rate rents and things of that nature, improvements to make. Following year, I thought I was a genius after buying that duplex. So a friend and I went in on buying 2 quadruplexes, and that was 2014. And then I still thought I was the smartest person ever. I got married, so I slowed down on investing. Fast forward to 2018, I hadn't bought anything else, but I was getting divorced. And my friend wanted to sell the quadruplexes. So we sold them. And then I just gave him the money, sort of loaned it to him. We just had this fluid verbal agreement that he would pay me back somehow. I don't recommend this, but it works out in the end. And I was on my last deployment. This is January 2019. And we had a joint account. That's how close of a relationship we had. He took that money I gave him. He bought some houses that he wanted to flip. He bought about five. And he called me while I was on this deployment or texted me, said, hey, check our joint account. I just sent you back all the money. I just paid you out. And he sent me more money than I made that year. And so I had 6 months left in the military. I had no job lined up. And I thought, maybe I should focus on this. That was literally, I'm sitting in Somalia. And then that was my decision. So I bought a rental while I was still in Africa. I bought one the month I got back, and I bought one more the last month I was in the military. Even then, I honestly had no idea what I was doing. I didn't realize I was riding a wave going in the right direction. started listening to Bigger Pockets, came up with buying criteria, the 1% test when it still worked. And then I also jumped into being a broker, and I started to learn at the pace that I could be a part of deals instead of afford to do them. Fast forward to 2021, actually, fast forward to 2020 is when I bought the bulk of the portfolio. I built up to about 45 units. I've started selling it since then. And in 2021, I started doing residential development by coming across somebody who was willing to teach me, who I met at a networking event. They work for Lend Lease and then another large scale commercial firm or development firm called Diamondback. And they showed me the ropes. I got to partner with them. And for whatever reason, I had a skill of finding a good site. So that was what I contributed. And I learned more and more by being able to be a part of deals. And that's what led me to being in this realm.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. I love that. I love that. I love that. Wow. Amazing, right? Um, so now let's talk about redlining. Now, Travis, you and I, we spoke briefly about this. Like, you know a lot about redlining. So can you talk about the how do you know about redlining, right? Because I think that's interesting for you to share and talk about what is it. Actually, before you do that, let's pause. Does everyone in the chat, does everyone know what redlining is? And it's okay if you don't. Yes, yes. Do we have any no's? And it's okay if there's a no. I promise you it's okay. I've heard of it. Do you have any no's? Do we have a no? I feel like it's a no in someone's mind and they're just afraid to say it. So go ahead and there we go. Okay. Thank you for being brave. Okay. Awesome. Travis, could you talk a little bit about what's redlining?
It literally comes back to this is before they had anti-discrimination laws. But effectively, they created a map, and this is the entire mortgage industry. So at the time, they had institutions much like the ones that we have today, like the Federal Housing Administration, that basically set all the rules for being able to create investments into the housing industry. So they created a map, and literally the purpose of the map was to indicate what was the majority ethnicity that lived in a region. And based off that ethnicity, they would redline it to say, okay, if this is a predominantly Black or brown community, we're going to limit it, if at all, minimize completely any lending to that community. So it's deemed as a community that could not receive typical commercial loans, and this for any purpose. So if it's not just for residential, if you needed it for commercial, et cetera, and so forth. But obviously that has extreme detrimental impacts on the community because, as you all know, the cost of housing has been growing for a long time, but it's always exceeded what someone could pay for with their entire salary. So you needed some way to purchase a house all at once, and enter in the mortgage system. So it allowed for a lot of predatory practices. So like unregulated lenders offering loans to brown people, if you call them that, basically scams. A lot of unethical agent practices. So they used to call it blockbusting. So an agent, if they wanted to sort of gain control of a nice area and be able to basically begin to purchase the homes at a lower rate, what they would do is they would buy one house, move in a Black family, and then basically scare the white community by saying, hey, your neighborhood's going to crap and you should all sell. And I'll be the perfect agent to help you sell all of your properties. And so a lot of these practices were going on all like the same time. And the agents used the map, and so did the mortgage industry to target brown communities. And so people got a lot of substandard housing. and also it made it very difficult, if nearly impossible, to build generational wealth, because most people, and still today, they transfer wealth through their primary residence. So, yeah, that's basically what the practice is. And it was created in Baltimore. They first test run the system in Baltimore and then expanded it to the entire nation. And I ended up learning a lot about it because I worked in affordable housing in Baltimore City. And so they did a lot of the company I worked for did a lot of neighborhood revitalization in an attempt to basically break down the effects of what that did to the Black communities in Baltimore.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that, Travis. So, just following up on that, Avery. So, from your
Mhm.
perspective as a developer, how do you see the legacy of these policies playing out in different neighborhoods, and how they would receive investment capital today?
Well, I see it twofold, especially as somebody who still works as a licensed broker occasionally as well. So something else that you'll observe in some of the on some really old properties are deed restrictions or restrictive covenants that will make reference to the race of who can buy or live in the neighborhood, occupy homes in the neighborhood, right? So that's one thing that exists, but it's illegal to abide by, right? The other thing that's become more prominent in the industry, even in the last 6 years now since I've been a broker, you on the forms that we sign just with our clients, it explicitly states that you can't discriminate based on race. They've really honed in on ensuring that they're eliminating these practices that are excluding people based on these immutable traits. Even as a broker, if someone were to come to me, let's say if someone who's Black comes to me and says, I want to live in a nice Black neighborhood, that statement disallows me to help you go find one. That's how serious they are
Wow.
about it.
Mhm.
So I
Wow.
can't even help you positively discriminate. That's
Wow.
that's how serious they are about these things now. Um, I would say the biggest but to better answer your question, the thing that I observed today is you can see the areas, the effects of these policies based on the condition that these neighborhoods are in today, the commercial properties and types of businesses within the areas. And then the challenge, though, is you often see neighborhoods turn over. I'll refer to it as turning over, but gentrification, right, is a commonly used word for it. And the challenge is that on one hand, it's hard to be a pioneer, right? You're taking risk if you're the person doing the first really nice house, or you have a business and you're bringing in this coffee shop to an area that maybe it's a little rougher or currently less desirable than you would otherwise expect. But it takes that over time and then being really deliberate about who you're marketing to, the price points you're selling in, making sure it's affordable to the people that live there, but a better condition than they're currently within, so that you're not displacing people and really just importing folks from a higher socioeconomic status. So it's kind of a challenge where, on one hand, sometimes I observe a dynamic where people are being predatory, right? You hear about a developer assembling a site over the course of years. They own all these blighted properties that contribute to eyesores and crime and sites in disrepair. And then they demolish all of it and build some giant mixed use site. But in other instances, what you have is sometimes you see a trickle in, and in some occasions, there are folks from outside who see value or potential in something that the community doesn't necessarily see because the vantage point they have from where they are. And so it's hard for me to it's not a blanket thing, but those are the two sides of the coin that I observe with that. And that's kind of the challenge, is
Mm.
figuring out when it's something that we can take the reins of as opposed to someone being a predator, which is not an uncommon thing either.
Now, this question is for both you all. So,
Mhm.
beyond home ownership, why is commercial real estate investment so critical for building generational wealth? What makes it different from just owning your primary residence? Anyone can go first.
I can give a good answer.
Yeah, what you
I
got?
I've seen this on a lot of occasions where I'm buying sites from people who inherited it. So I would say like knowledge is really important. I think of developing real estate the same as baking a cake. To me, it's the process of creating value. If I were to say, hey, I've got eggs, sugar, flour, and whatever else on the counter, you want to buy it? Maybe you give me a few dollars. But if I whip them together, throw them in the oven, decorate it really nice, I could probably sell you the cake for, if it was for a wedding, for $1,000, right? So it just depends. And I see people inherit these ingredients with no knowledge of how to create value, like the process of turning it into something of use to other people. And then I come along, or someone like me comes along and says, I'd like to buy this. And then maybe I buy it for I buy it for 500,000, and maybe I sell it for 1.5 million, right? So someone in the paper reads some builder paid $1.5 million for 50 acres, and they think, wow, that's crazy. But they don't realize the time and money and things that went into creating the extra $1 million of value. They just see this number at the end. And I think that's something that does not get passed on quite often. And I observe it firsthand.
Got it.
Yeah, that was a great answer. And it makes me think of one of the first things that come to mind. At least, I this came to me during my experience working in affordable housing. Um, Depending on the asset itself, real estate is not always a good investment. And
Mm.
what is often sold, not just to our community, but I think broadly in the media, is that, real estate is kind of like a no-brainer. Like you buy something, you rent it out, you'll be able to retain the value for it. And then, folks, what they do is they kind of oversimplify and they don't do the full research and understand the value creation process. And they think like I need to hit this milestone. I need to develop generational wealth. This is how everyone else is telling me to do it. I'm going to take this path because, if you want to leave something for your family, you need to you own your home, right? And so how it overlapped with the affordable housing space is, it they used to create great programs, the state government to for first time home buyers, but what folks don't know is that there's all these restrictions written into it that you don't have the actual equity. They just basically convey to you the land, but what people care about as a secondary purpose for buying a house is not just living in it, but also the value creation aspect. Otherwise, you could just rent. And I think when speaking from the standpoint of the Black community, I think that's something that other stakeholders like state governments and city governments they kind of intentionally withhold that analysis and that viewpoint that, oh, like, yeah, we might be just giving you a house, but it may not have any value in it, because it's beneficial for them if they have a workforce population near their city center. Like we have to start thinking about who's on the other side of these transactions and why they're selling things to us as buyers. Um, and yeah, like I think it's like the financial capability question, like being able to understand how value is created is the core of it. So when we look at commercial real estate, that's the whole exercise. It's making sure that um, it that the asset in and of itself has that inherent potential, but then you're also going through all the the steps to sustain and create that financial value over time.
All right, let's talk to the audience real quick. I want to make sure y'all still here. Y'all still here with this because this is great, right? Y'all enjoying yourselves? Y'all learning stuff? I know, right? I always love it, right? So I got a question for y'all for the audience. So what's your biggest barrier to real estate investing? Is it y'all don't know where to start? Is the minimum investment too high? You don't understand the deals? You don't trust the process? Already investing, no barriers? I know some folks, they invested. I think some folks in here even invested in your deal. Travis, it says, why just rent? It's not beneficial in the long run to pay a mortgage that is not your own.
There's a concept called the time value of money. So then if you focus on that concept, it basically is saying if you take a specific amount of money, let's say it's $10,000, right? Well, what could you do with that $10,000 versus something else, right? So with all the options that you have available to you, sometimes when you do the calculation, it's not a hard and fast thing about whether or not you're paying a mortgage or paying a landlord, right? Sometimes that the landlord, if you're the person who owns the property, you actually only get paid after everybody else gets paid, right? So
Yep.
you got to make sure that there's enough value after the mortgage, after the repairs, after the property maintenance and or property management that you actually have excess. And so to collect as the landlord. So to be honest, a lot of folks don't really know how to do that math or that research, and they're thinking, "Oh, if I own this, I'm going to automatically get that excess." That's not true. It's not always a guaranteed. So um, you may be able to take, say, a $10,000 amount of money and invest it in a stock that might give you a rate of return that's higher than what you invested into a property, and also might be more liquid. So you have to be able to do that calculation to say like what's best for you at that point in time, instead of assuming that the sheer fact of owning a property is going to make you wealthier. Because the property itself is a business, and the businesses only make money when there's net income. Your gross income exceeds in much greater value your expenses.
Yeah,
Good.
I
Oh,
agree
go
with
for
that.
it. Yeah.
Just to give you an example, so the place I'm staying in now, I'm renting it, right? Even owning probably a little over 2 dozen properties still, I'm renting the place I'm in now. The person who owns this condo, they paid $730,000 for it. I'm renting it for $2,500 a month. They clearly don't have a mortgage, but if they had one, it would not be $2,500 a month, right? So sometimes it's a matter of determining, hey, I have the ability to access something at a fixed cost over a period of time where the value far exceeds the cost to me, and I can optimize all the other things I currently own. Where instead of the place I stay just costing me money, that could also be generating income. And I have this fixed cost for this period of time, right? Similarly, you have a lot of homeowners, property owners who refinance, say, between 2019 and 2022, who have a mortgage rate that's still significantly lower than the market rental rates. And if you were to buy their house right now, you could not have a mortgage for as low as they could profitably rent it to you. Right. So there's a matter of like cost of capital, as Travis was mentioning, that it's important to consider. Now that's getting into the weeds, right? It takes a little bit of education or applied knowledge to like understand that perspective. But that's the simplest way that I can think, where it's a matter of where your money goes further and where you have the most risk and responsibility.
Yeah, we run into that problem all the time. Every time we build a place, it's like we're like, oh, should we live there? And then it's like, No, because you could rent it for way more. That's another thing. Once you start owning more property, you can always rent it for more than you want to pay yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it becomes circular. I almost always end up moving out of a place that I built if I moved into it because of that reason. So yeah, we end up renting a lot.
I love that. So, I have some activity going on in chat. It says, did Mr. West say something to the tune of the home buyer may not have access to equity in the property?
Yeah, I mean, it seems kind of rhetorical, but yes, it's the same way to phrase it. It's like um, if you just pencil it out and after you pay everyone, there's nothing left, then you have title to the property, but you don't have any financial value. So, and that's if you only retain title if you can pay all the all the previous people that you owe. You eventually will lose title to the property, the ability to be called the owner, uh, if you can't pay the expenses.
Mm. So, what do you all think success would look like 5 years from now? Meaning, like, what would it mean for the wealth gap if Black investors had the same access to commercial real estate that white investors have had for generations?
I well, I would go a step further. I would go a step further than that because investing is important because you need to find a way to remove the direct correlation between inputs of your time to generate income or revenue. And that's where investing is important, where you can passively generate a return, or the only way you can actually passively invest. But the other thing is we have to be involved. We have to become essential to the process of developing or the systems where these things get created in the first place. So being involved in the trades, being involved in brokerage, being involved in civil engineering. I cannot develop anything without a civil engineering firm,
Right.
right?
Wait,
There's
before you make some folks may not know what civil engineering. Can
that,
you
yeah, that's
explain what
fair.
that is?
So
Okay.
so when I'm developing a property, right, I'll conduct my due diligence and I'm going to hire a soil scientist. That's literally their title, where they went to college for this. And they're going to go tell me the soil composition, the soil types, if there are wetlands. They're going to do a study and map that and send it off to the Army Corps of Engineers. I'm going to hire a surveyor. They're going to tell me the boundaries of the property, the elevations of it, or the topography. There's going to be a physical engineer that is going to be the engineer of record that submits all of my construction drawings, the layout to the city or the county, that all these things. So there are all these people with, no kidding, credentials and licenses and specific degree paths and experience that I depend on to be able to make a neighborhood or a mixed use community or a hotel.
Mhm.
So we have to make it so that you cannot do any of these things without us being a part of it. To me, that's the first step, because a part of the reason why other communities have access to these things is since they're ingrained, they're essential to the process of creating it. Then it's like, hey, I'm working on this thing. Like they're raising money, right? So it's easy to know ahead of time if you're the one helping them get across the finish line.
So
Um,
you're saying getting in the different aspects of commercial real estate, right? Or just in real estate development in general, right? Like getting in those different jobs or those
yes,
career
because
paths.
yes, but even beyond, say, commercial real estate or development, because some of these things say, let's say you're an engineer that works for a county or a town, and maybe you don't know much of anything about commercial real estate or development, but you will know Onslow County's doing a sewer expansion project in the southwest part of the county, and that means new homes, new commercial products now will have water and sewer lines to connect to. Even if that's all you know and you don't know anything about building a neighborhood or a house, you know someone else who builds homes, develops commercial centers, right? And having that network, even if you don't have that knowledge about that specific process, that's enough for you to be tied in, right? So it's it's a matter of us becoming an indispensable part of these processes. I'd say that's a part of the challenge, and that's going to give us the in where we're gonna be in on the secret the whole time the secret's getting made,
Mhm.
right?
I,
So,
I think my answer is actually very similar. And so I'm just gonna list off like the other areas that we need to have ownership of actually. So like what you're getting at is basically like that we need shared intellectual capital, right?
mhm,
And that actually needs to be aggregated uh, in a way that locates to where we actually live in and do our business. And what I've seen from actually working in affordable housing that was based on neighborhood revitalization, not only were we missing the piece that you're talking about, but the other aspect of it is that the true financial control didn't even lie with actual brown people. It
mhm,
was set up to look like it did, so you didn't poke holes into it. But even though they set up like a for sale program, well, I know this because I got pretty high up at the organization and I was literally in the board meetings. They were talking about the for sale program like it was successful. Like they would use it to talk to the state government, like, oh, we're changing black and brown home ownership in this area. And actually what they were doing, they were repopulating the area, but they were actually still the landlords, right?
mhm,
And not only that, they this is a sub point. They weren't even great landlords, but because they had this social mission that was designed to basically protect them from the political critique, no one was looking into the fact that basically the people who owned the community were it was a predominantly white board that was getting subsidy from a predominantly white state, and the white state was allocating it because they knew them. Like they literally had people who used to serve at the state on the board, and then a lot of the additional subsidy that comes with private capital was going through the LIHTC system, which was provided by like basically white banking institutions. So
mhm,
only on the surface did it look brown, but when you peeled it back, we didn't own any of the intellectual capital or financial institutions that like created the asset base for over three communities. I'm talking like 300 homes, um, 6 multifamily buildings, developing a whole parkway in the center of Baltimore City, right next to Penn Station. This is prime real estate,
Right.
and they're able to get the political leverage because they're like, "Oh, we're helping Black people," but really
Right.
the people that own it are all. It was
Wow.
on. I ended up leaving because of that.
mhm,
I'm sure.
And what it made me think was that we have to have a really strong. We don't have to own everything in our communities, but we have to own the strongest assets, and we have to own all the decision making process around it. And it has to be people who actually come from that community and look like it, um, not effectively being in the position of political coverage for uh, the other folks who do actually own it. Um, so it's really the same. You hit the nail on the head. It's having the intellectual capital and then being able to own it through. And I think it's possible. Like
mhm,
um, being uh, being the fact that many of our communities are undervalued because of redlining, that is actually kind of an opportunity for us if we actually put together the intellectual capital and raise money through platforms like Vestor. We could start owning the core assets in our communities and then change the vision and reposition the vision so that the financial system sees the actual value. And what I will say that I learned about the system is that if you find like the right uh person in the right political seat, it doesn't matter what color they are, they'll help a group that's trying to do that. Because to be honest, they don't see it that often, and some of the people in that work got into it because they wanted to see it. Um, so it's honestly spaces like this where the conversation needs to start and continue, and an action needs to be formed. But yeah, Avery, you hit the nail on the head. That's actually the way we start to move into change the dynamic and actually make an outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, I love that. And it's a great segue into my next question, which you touched on a little bit. But what role do platforms like Vester play in making, that vision real? So what needs to be true for this to work at scale? Which you touched on a little bit. I don't know if Abe, if you want to elaborate on it.
No, for sure. Because I listed some really specific jobs or careers, but the reality is that's in just one aspect of the process. You can't do any of those things without money,
No.
which I have to pay all those people I listed every month based on however much work they did. So it'll be whatever random amount they email me, I owe them, which is not fun. So
Hopefully it's not random. Hopefully it'll be
no, it's random to me because I
Sometimes
don't
it is
know.
random.
It's
Sometimes it
random to
is
me.
random.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be
It's
five
true.
hundred dollars or
You're
$70,000.
like, did you do a work? Like, we didn't
Yeah,
even, we just had a 5-minute phone call. Whoop, there's a
yep.
$500 bill. So
I'm
yeah, I
asking
know.
for drop boxes sometimes. I need to see what you're charging me for. So I
Yeah.
was so capital is a critical part of this. 100%. You cannot do any of this without money. Um, so that's a big thing is we think of it like, oh, I need all this money in order to invest, in order to do a deal. And sometimes it's not a matter of you just individually need it all or you just have to learn how to do it. Sometimes you have the ability, you have a great job, you earn excess income, and you don't necessarily have to go learn how to be a real estate developer or investor. Maybe it makes sense for you to continue doing what you do best and then find someone else who does the thing you think you need to learn, who does that best. And then you partner together. It's like, look, I have excess money. You have an excess skill in this arena, but you don't have an excess of resources to lend toward it. Let's work together to create this specific outcome. I get paid, you get paid. It all works for everybody. So platforms like Vester are critical for facilitating that. It's very easy to go from your raising money from friends and family to accidentally committing securities fraud. So you want to make sure that you stay on the correct side of that line,
That's
right?
true.
That is very, that's,
It's true.
No,
I like how you said accidentally.
no,
It's
I've
true.
seen
Yeah,
it.
you're right.
I
Yeah.
have seen it so many times. It's
Yeah,
critical. In all
especially
seriousness, I've seen it where, maybe I'm partnering with somebody and somebody's like, hey, they want to see a higher return. Can we promise them a higher return? And I'm like, no. Like,
no, right.
no.
No.
Or or they'll say, hey, they thought this was going to finish earlier and can we come up with an amount and then we exit them out? And I'm like, so you want me to determine the most I can pay them in the shortest period of time without them even giving me the money I need to get everything done? No. Right? So platforms like Vester, SEC broker dealers, securities attorneys, critical in us being able to effectively and legally collaborate to create shared outcomes that benefit everybody. 100%.
Yeah, because as you mentioned, the goal is to protect the investor, but
Yes.
also protect you all as the deal sponsor as well, right? Because anytime you invest in something, it's risky and it's a possibility because it is real estate, or not even it is real estate, that it's an investment and that you could potentially, lose your investment. Of course, we don't want that to ever happen. but we never know what may happen. Especially, I'm sure the people who during COVID or pre-COVID when they did their pro forma, next thing you know, they opened and it was COVID, right? So anything can happen when you invest. This was good. I'll open the floors for some questions. I know the
Can I add one thing to
oh
the
yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I'd also say that, Vestor is a community as well as it is a platform for access to capital. And
Oh,
so
thank you. Yeah.
just the ability to share this type of information, to be on the call, like no one's taking advantage of it, but you guys could literally unmute and ask Avery and I questions and Davonne. And the amount of information on this
Yeah.
on this call in and of itself and being able to have access to it can literally change your way of thinking, which can help you leapfrog. So if you're either going to become a sponsor yourself or an investor, you can figure out the best way to do that. And then also through sharing information with other people. And the reason why that jumps out to my mind is a huge advantage. And I think that is actually the point, the collaboration, is because that transformation happened for me. Like I had all this real estate experience and I wasn't using it in a way that would allow me to put together a, SEC regulated investment until I met Davonne in 2024. And I was like, I should probably think about doing this. And it completely
You
changed.
did it.
Like, yeah, yeah. Both Mike and I did it. And, but honestly, it was that experience of being like, oh, wow, there's a lot of us who want this. They need actually people to be sponsors and they feel more comfortable doing it with people that look like them and that speak to their life experience. And we're as much as the capital is a resource for us as the sponsor, we're a resource for the community. So I think that's a huge value that and this type of space making that you're doing right now by even setting up this conversation goes a long way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you for that. I like that. Let's see, it says, just reading it said, Vaughn said, that's the reason I'm stuck in my dream home. That was from earlier. There is a way to maximize. Oh, we talked about that. There's a way to maximize ownership without excess costs with high profitability. And Vaughn mentioned real estate lawyers. Yes, real estate lawyers are needed. Oh, thank you. Adrian said it is. And I love Davonne for this and everyone who has made this possible. Yeah, I love you all too. This is great. Yeah, Vester, we are on our fourth year since we launched. So we're one of the few crowdfunding platforms that are still around that are Black owned. There's some crowdfunding platforms that started before us that couldn't make it. So I'm just glad it was a rough road. I can tell you, at one point thought we weren't gonna make it either, but we're here. And so thank you all to the community. Thank y'all for being a part of this. Thank you, Avery and Travis, for trusting Vester to helping you
Of course.
get to your goal. Travis and Mikey, they just completed their raise. Now we need to help Avery and his team finish his raise so that way they can develop. They'll be one of the few Black owned hotels. They got approved by Marriott, which is very hard to do. Not everybody can get approved by Marriott. So I'll put the links in the chat. Oh wait, it says Avery, to recap one of my previous questions, is the deadline for the Fairfield investment still April 1st?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. And then also we just had a pitch webinar. It's on the Vester website, or you can just actually just look at it. If you need more information, I'm actually about to put it in the chat for those who want to invest. Okay. All right. So I put the link in the chat. I put it in the chat for Avery's deal. Oh, thank you. It says Davonne brings a huge amount of value to the table. I'm so proud. Oh, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I have I have one additional item that's a
Please
hot
share.
topic I hear about all the time.
Share it away.
appraisals.
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah.
So I obviously there's a lot of evidence of disparities in appraisals. And I hear all types of interesting strategies about how to address it. But I also think it's important that we know how to read an appraisal and contest one. I don't hear anyone talking about that. And I have a specific example regarding this where it's important to understand how to do that instead of being fixated on why you think the value isn't where you think it's supposed to be. So in 2022, I am refinancing a portfolio. I'm refinancing like 20 something unit portfolio. They're all, I own about,
If I'm mentally ill
I
right
own
now,
about
I don't want to worry.
25% of this neighborhood. It's owned under my company, Continental Ground, right? So you don't look at the name of the owner and you're like, oh, they're black. You don't know who owns this. There's nothing about the name, my name. I don't know if it sounds black or not. At the same time, my client, he's getting his properties appraised.
No, wait.
Can you hear me?
Okay, sorry. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, no sweat. At the same time, I had a client who owned 3 units in the neighborhood where I owned all these units. He was doing a cash out refinance. He had just finished getting his appraisal done. His appraisals came in 20% higher than mine. His name is Leroy Butler.
Hmm.
Right? Like no one reads that name and thinks he's probably not black. So I'm over here getting a portfolio refinance and I'm getting hosed on my appraisals and Leroy Butler is killing it. So he like I'm friends with him. So I'm like, hey man, can you send me a copy of your appraisals? Because I'm about to appeal these. They mailed it in. I appealed them twice. Right. So I read the appraisal. In the appraisal, there's a portion where they're comparing it to 3 properties, and then they're showing the different features where they're actually adding or deducting value based on your property, their property not having those features, condition. There should be a comparison approach, a replacement cost, and an income approach. Especially if you're paying for it, like make them earn the money you're paying. And then if you're the person getting the financing, you're the customer, it belongs to you. You're the one paying for the appraisal. So it's important that one, you know where to look to determine how did they derive this value. So when I reviewed that, I said, hey, they used a comparable that is over a year old. That's not a relevant sale. It's not a good comp. They used a comp. This is 1,000 square foot unit. They used a 1,400 square foot unit. That's a 40% difference in footprint. Not a good comp. And then so I contested or appealed the appraisal. They went back and did it. Then magically the value went to where it should have been in the first place. Right? I didn't live in any of those houses. So I couldn't go in anyone's house and take their pictures off the wall or do anything like that. I had to be able to work with all I had, which was the report itself, and then contest the data. So we want to make sure that we're informed so that we can level the playing field wherever we are on that field, so to speak, because sometimes we can't depersonalize a property in some cases. Sometimes you just have to know where to push back.
That,
It was good.
I mean, yeah,
No.
that's a super important point.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, Mikey did that recently and got us 33% more value on the approved value on the hotel. So
Oh, Mikey.
33%.
That black
No, she
girl
didn't
magic.
play.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The lender like basically yelled at the appraiser, redo it. These people are too smart. You did something wrong.
Oh, we
So,
have a comment in the chat. Vaughn Mitchell mentioned that she's going through an appraisal issue. She needs help. So I don't know how you all can connect with her offline.
Shoot, I'll take your contact info down. I'm like a good challenge. I'm ready.
Oh,
What's the best number, email address for you? Let's check
you
it
know
out.
what? I can connect y'all via email.
Okay, I'm with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Why not have it? I
We'll
can
get to the bottom of this.
I love it. Come on now, Avery. I love it. Well, before we because we're almost at the end.
Mhm.
Before we jump, well, for one, thank you, Avery. Thank you, Travis. I mean, this was a really, really, really good conversation. I think you all can agree. I always learn something. So I learned something today. Did you all learn something today? Did y'all learn anything? I learned something. Did y'all learn something new? Abs-
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we're
It
getting
was
some
great.
yeses.
Oh, I know they did. Come on now. They learned something new. This is amazing. Happy Black History Month, everyone. Again, thank you, Avery. Thank you, Travis, for tuning in. And we are having our next webinar in March, on March 11th, with Mikey, with the other half, with Mikey Ball. And Daisy, and we're going to be celebrating Women's History Month next month. So again, thank you all for tuning in. You'll have the replay within 24 hours. And oh wait, it's always one last question before we end. So it says how there are many similarities to residential property. Was that a question? Or you just making a statement? Okay. Statement. Got it. Okay.
Statement.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Just make sure. All right. Just wanted to make sure. All right. Again, I thank you all so much. I thank you all for tuning in. You all have an amazing night. And thank you again, Avery and Travis, for your time this evening.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.